Burkina Faso, a landlocked nation in West Africa, possesses a rich history deeply intertwined with French colonial rule. This legacy continues to shape its political landscape, leaving a complex and often fraught relationship between the two nations. For decades, France maintained significant influence over Burkina Faso's political, economic, and military affairs, a legacy that continues to resonate even today. This influence, however, has not been without its critics, fueling a growing anti-French sentiment within the country. The current geopolitical climate in Burkina Faso is characterized by considerable instability. A series of coups and political upheavals have punctuated the nation's recent history, reflecting the deep-seated socio-economic challenges and persistent power struggles that define the nation's trajectory. This volatile environment has created fertile ground for both internal and external actors to exert influence, often with unpredictable consequences. Captain IBRAHIM Traoré, who assumed leadership following a military coup in 2022, has emerged as a significant figure in this turbulent period. His rise to power reflects the underlying dissatisfaction with previous governments and their perceived failure to address the country's pressing issues. Traoré's leadership has been defined by a strong nationalistic stance, often overtly critical of continued French involvement in Burkina Faso's affairs. This stance has garnered considerable popular support, tapping into a long-standing desire for greater autonomy and self-determination. His actions, therefore, must be understood within the context of this complex historical, political, and socio-economic landscape. The events we are about to examine are not isolated incidents, but rather, they represent a crucial juncture in Burkina Faso's ongoing struggle for independence and self-governance. This struggle, played out against the backdrop of lingering colonial ties and international power dynamics, underscores the complexities and high stakes involved in the unfolding narrative. The discovery of a French operative within the Burkinabe military is, in this context, far more than a simple espionage case. It is a potent symbol of a deeper, more profound conflict. Understanding this context is crucial to grasping the significance of the events that follow. The precise details surrounding the discovery of the French operative remain shrouded in some secrecy, understandably so given the sensitive nature of the situation. However, accounts emerging from within the Burkinabe military suggest a meticulous and methodical investigation. It appears that suspicions were first raised through a combination of intercepted communications and unusual activity within certain military units. These initial concerns prompted a more thorough internal inquiry, focusing on individuals with unusually close ties to French military or intelligence agencies. The investigation, conducted with utmost discretion, involved a painstaking review of personnel records, financial transactions, and communication logs. Sophisticated surveillance techniques, including monitoring of electronic communications and physical surveillance, were likely employed. The process involved the close collaboration of several trusted officers within Captain Traoré's inner circle, ensuring maximum security and minimizing the risk of leaks. The evidence gathered, though not yet publicly released in its entirety, reportedly included intercepted encrypted messages, financial records showing suspicious transactions, and witness testimonies from within the military ranks. The operative, whose identity remains undisclosed for security reasons, was reportedly integrated into a sensitive unit within the Burkinabe military, offering them access to strategic information and operational plans. The exact nature of their role and the specific information they were allegedly tasked with gathering remains unclear, though reports suggest it related to Burkina Faso's military capabilities and strategic partnerships. The depth of their infiltration and the extent of their access to sensitive information highlight the gravity of the situation and underscore the potential damage that could have been inflicted. The successful exposure of this operative, however, serves as a testament to the vigilance and determination of the Burkinabe military leadership in safeguarding national security. The discovery represents a significant victory for Captain Traoré and his administration, demonstrating their commitment to protecting Burkina Faso's sovereignty against external interference. The next steps, however, would prove even more critical. Upon confirming the presence of the French operative within the Burkinabe military, Captain Traore faced a critical decision: how to proceed. Immediate arrest and public exposure carried significant risks. A hasty response could have provoked a strong reaction from France, potentially escalating the situation into a full-blown diplomatic crisis, with unpredictable consequences for Burkina Faso's fragile political stability. Furthermore, a premature exposure might have compromised ongoing investigations and jeopardized the ability to gather further intelligence on the extent of French involvement. Therefore, Traore opted for a more cautious and strategic approach: continued surveillance. This decision, while carrying its own inherent risks, offered several crucial advantages. By closely monitoring the operative's activities, Traore's team could gather irrefutable evidence, strengthening their position in any subsequent confrontation. This evidence could also help to expose any potential collaborators within the Burkinabe military or government, thus preventing further infiltration and safeguarding national security. Furthermore, continued surveillance allowed Traore to assess the operative's network and connections, providing valuable insights into the broader scope of French influence within the country. This strategic decision, though seemingly passive, was a calculated risk designed to maximize the potential benefits while mitigating the inherent dangers. The delay provided invaluable time for gathering concrete evidence, building a stronger case, and planning a more effective and impactful response. The success of this strategy hinged on the ability to maintain complete secrecy, minimizing the risk of the operative becoming aware of the surveillance and escaping or altering their activities. This phase of the operation, characterized by careful planning and meticulous execution, proved crucial in shaping the events that would follow. The calculated delay ultimately paved the way for a more decisive and impactful response. The surveillance phase of the operation was a delicate balancing act, requiring meticulous planning and flawless execution. A multi-pronged approach was adopted, combining both technical and human intelligence gathering methods. Electronic surveillance played a crucial role, with the Burkinabe intelligence services monitoring the operative's communications, both digital and analog. This involved sophisticated techniques to intercept and decrypt encrypted messages, analyzing call logs, and monitoring internet activity. Simultaneously, physical surveillance was employed, with trained operatives discreetly tracking the operative's movements, documenting their interactions, and identifying potential contacts. The information gathered during this phase was crucial in building a comprehensive picture of the operative's activities and network. It revealed not only the nature of the information they were collecting, but also the extent of their connections within both the French and Burkinabe establishments. The challenges faced during this period were considerable. Maintaining secrecy was paramount, as any leak could compromise the entire operation and allow the operative to escape or destroy evidence. The risks of prolonged surveillance were also significant, with the potential for the operative to become suspicious and change their behavior, hindering the intelligence gathering process. Furthermore, the Burkinabe intelligence services had to carefully manage the potential for internal leaks within their own ranks. Despite these risks and challenges, the surveillance phase yielded invaluable information. The meticulous work of the Burkinabe intelligence services ultimately provided the necessary evidence to expose not only the operative, but also the broader network supporting their activities. This intelligence would prove instrumental in shaping Captain Traoré's subsequent decisions and would dramatically alter the unfolding geopolitical landscape. The success of this phase, achieved through careful planning and precise execution, laid the foundation for the decisive actions that followed. Captain Traore chose a dramatic and highly publicized method to expose the French operative. Rather than a quiet arrest or a discreet announcement, he opted for a public unveiling, strategically timed to maximize its impact. The timing and method of the exposure were carefully considered, taking into account both domestic and international ramifications. The announcement was made during a nationally televised address, a calculated move designed to galvanize public support and solidify Traoré's position as a strong leader defending national sovereignty. The method of exposure involved a carefully orchestrated presentation of irrefutable evidence, including intercepted communications, financial records, and witness testimonies. This detailed presentation aimed to leave no room for doubt regarding the operatives' identity, their role within the Burkinabe military, and the nature of their activities. The impact on public opinion was immediate and profound. The revelation resonated deeply with the Burkinabe population, already wary of lingering French influence, further fueling anti-French sentiment and bolstering support for Traoré's government. The public exposure effectively framed the issue not merely as an isolated incident of espionage, but as a broader struggle against neo-colonial interference. The ramifications for Burkina Faso's relations with France were severe. The incident sparked outrage and condemnation from the French government, further straining the already tense relationship between the two countries. The exposure, however, also shifted the international narrative, positioning Burkina Faso as a nation actively defending its sovereignty and challenging the lingering influence of former colonial powers. The bold move, while risky, proved to be a powerful statement of Burkina Faso's determination to chart its own independent course. This strategic communication, carefully orchestrated and timed, fundamentally altered the dynamics of the situation and set the stage for further developments. The public reaction within Burkina Faso to Captain Traoré's exposure of the French operative was immediate and largely supportive. A wave of nationalistic fervor swept across the country, with many citizens expressing admiration for Traoré's decisive action and his defense of national sovereignty. The revelation confirmed long-held suspicions about French interference in Burkinabe affairs, fueling existing anti-French sentiment and strengthening Traoré's position as a strong leader. Massive rallies and demonstrations erupted in major cities across the country, with citizens expressing their unwavering support for the government's actions and their rejection of foreign interference. However, the domestic reaction was not entirely uniform. While the majority of the population celebrated the exposure, a segment voiced concerns about the potential consequences of escalating tensions with France. Some expressed apprehension about the possibility of economic sanctions or military intervention, highlighting the potential economic and social repercussions of a strained relationship with a major international power. These concerns, though less prominent than the widespread support for Traoré, represented a significant minority voice within the national discourse. The debate underscored the complex political landscape within Burkina Faso, where nationalist sentiment coexisted with anxieties about the country's vulnerability on the global stage. Despite these concerns, the overwhelming public sentiment was one of national pride and defiance. The exposure of the French operative became a powerful symbol of Burkina Faso's determination to assert its independence and chart its own course, free from external influence. The demonstrations and rallies, while largely peaceful, served as a potent display of public support for Captain Traoré and his administration, solidifying his position of power and reinforcing the national consensus against foreign interference in Burkina Faso's internal affairs. The events highlighted the depth of anti-colonial sentiment and the strength of the nationalistic spirit within the country. The international community reacted swiftly and decisively to Captain Traoré's actions, with responses varying significantly depending on geopolitical alignments and national interests. France, unsurprisingly, condemned the exposure vehemently, accusing Burkina Faso of violating international norms and escalating tensions unnecessarily. The French government demanded a full investigation and the immediate release of the operative, framing the incident as a grave breach of diplomatic protocol and a threat to regional stability. Other Western nations, while expressing concerns about the handling of the situation, largely echoed France's condemnation, emphasizing the importance of upholding international law and respecting diplomatic norms. Statements from these nations often highlighted concerns about the potential for further instability in the region and the importance of maintaining a stable relationship with Burkina Faso. In contrast, the reaction within the African community was far more nuanced. Several African nations, particularly those with a history of challenging neo-colonial influence, expressed cautious support for Burkina Faso's actions, viewing the incident as a symbol of the ongoing struggle against lingering vestiges of colonialism. These nations recognized the complexities of the situation and acknowledged the need for Burkina Faso to assert its sovereignty, even if it meant challenging established international norms. However, many other African countries refrained from openly supporting Burkina Faso, preferring a more neutral stance and emphasizing the importance of regional stability and diplomatic solutions. This diverse response within the African community reflected the range of perspectives on the issue, highlighting the complex web of political relationships and national interests that shaped the international response. The incident became a focal point for broader discussions about neocolonialism, sovereignty, and the evolving dynamics of international relations within Africa. In a bold diplomatic maneuver, Captain Traore convened an international summit, inviting key players from both the African continent and the international community. This summit served as a crucial platform for Burkina Faso to assert its sovereignty and directly address the concerns raised by the exposure of the French operative. The participants included representatives from several African nations, notably those who had expressed either support or neutrality in the wake of the incident, alongside diplomats from Western countries, including France. The agenda focused on Burkina Faso's demand for respect for its national sovereignty and an end to foreign interference in its internal affairs. Traore used the summit to articulate a clear message. Burkina Faso would not tolerate external manipulation of its political landscape. He presented a comprehensive overview of the evidence related to the French operative, highlighting the ongoing threat of foreign interference and emphasizing the need for international cooperation in combating such activities. The summit, while not resolving all outstanding issues, achieved a significant outcome. While outright condemnation from some Western nations persisted, the summit fostered a dialogue that shifted the narrative. It moved the discussion beyond the immediate incident and toward a broader acknowledgement of Burkina Faso's right to self-determination. The summit's success lay not in achieving immediate concessions, but in establishing a platform for Burkina Faso to articulate its concerns on a global stage and to frame the narrative in terms of its legitimate fight for sovereignty. This strategic move significantly strengthened Burkina Faso's position on the international stage and set a precedent for other African nations facing similar challenges. The long-term impact of the French spy exposure on Burkina Faso's sovereignty is multifaceted and continues to unfold. The incident served as a catalyst, solidifying a national resolve to resist external interference and redefine the nation's relationship with France and other international actors. The immediate consequence was a significant strain on relations with France, marked by diplomatic tensions and a reassessment of existing bilateral agreements. Burkina Faso's foreign policy shifted toward a greater emphasis on strengthening ties with other African nations, particularly those sharing similar experiences with neocolonial influence. This realignment reflects a conscious effort to diversify diplomatic partnerships and reduce dependence on former colonial powers. The exposure also strengthened Burkina Faso's domestic political landscape. Captain Traoré's decisive action enhanced his leadership credentials, consolidating his position and bolstering his image as a staunch defender of national interests. The incident galvanized a sense of national unity and purpose, fostering a renewed commitment to self-reliance and economic independence. However, the long-term implications are complex. The confrontation with France carries potential economic and security risks. The country's vulnerability to economic sanctions and potential external pressure remains a significant concern. Ultimately, the spy case marks a turning point in Burkina Faso's journey towards self-determination. The incident, while initially disruptive, has fostered a renewed focus on national sovereignty, leading to a more assertive foreign policy and a stronger sense of national identity. The lasting effects will depend on Burkina Faso's ability to navigate the complex geopolitical landscape and successfully manage the long-term consequences of its confrontation with France and other international actors. The case will undoubtedly be studied for years to come as a pivotal moment in the nation's struggle for genuine independence. The exposure of the French operative in Burkina Faso's military resonates far beyond the borders of the nation, carrying significant implications for the broader struggle against neocolonialism in Africa. The incident serves as a stark reminder of the persistent challenges African nations face in asserting their sovereignty and achieving genuine independence from the lingering influence of former colonial powers. The case highlights the subtle, yet potent, methods employed to maintain influence, extending beyond overt military intervention to encompass covert operations aimed at undermining national stability and influencing domestic policy. This incident is not an isolated case. Similar allegations of foreign interference have surfaced in other African nations, underscoring a pattern of ongoing efforts to maintain influence and control over key resources and political landscapes. The Burkina Faso case, however, stands out due to the decisive response of Captain Traore and the widespread public support he received. His actions have emboldened other African leaders and activists who are increasingly vocal in their opposition to neocolonial practices. The incident underscores the importance of vigilance and the need for African nations to strengthen their intelligence capabilities to detect and counter such clandestine operations. The event also highlights the complex relationship between former colonial powers and their former colonies. While overt colonial rule has ended, subtle forms of influence continue to shape the political and economic landscape of many African nations. The Burkina Faso case serves as a powerful symbol of the ongoing struggle for genuine self-determination and underscores the need for a critical examination of the lasting legacy of colonialism and its impact on contemporary African societies. It compels a discussion on the need for equitable partnerships and genuine respect for national sovereignty in international relations. Captain Traoré's handling of the French spy crisis exemplifies a decisive and calculated leadership style. His decision-making process reveals a careful balance between decisive action and strategic planning. Instead of resorting to immediate confrontation, he opted for meticulous surveillance, prioritizing the gathering of irrefutable evidence before taking public action. This methodical approach minimized the risk of escalating the situation unnecessarily and allowed for a more impactful revelation. His communication strategy was equally effective. The televised address, delivered with conviction and supported by irrefutable evidence, resonated deeply with the Burkinabe population, solidifying his position of strength and garnering widespread public support. Traoré's leadership during this crisis showcases an ability to effectively navigate complex domestic and international pressures. His actions demonstrated a deep understanding of the political landscape, both domestically and internationally. He skillfully leveraged the incident to strengthen his own position within the country, while simultaneously challenging the established power dynamics within the international community. The international summit, convened in the aftermath of the exposure, represents a masterful display of diplomatic prowess, transforming a potentially explosive situation into an opportunity to assert Burkina Faso's sovereignty on the world stage. The overall effectiveness of Traoré's actions is evident in the significant shifts in Burkina Faso's relationship with France and other international actors. His decisive actions not only exposed a significant security breach, but also initiated a broader reassessment of the country's relationship with former colonial powers. His leadership serves as a case study in effective crisis management, demonstrating the power of strategic planning, decisive action, and calculated communication in achieving national goals. His response stands as a potent example of leadership in a complex geopolitical environment. Captain Traoré's strategy in handling the French spy crisis presents a complex picture of successes and potential long-term challenges. The short-term successes are undeniable. His meticulous approach, prioritizing evidence gathering over immediate action, resulted in a powerful and irrefutable public exposure of the operative. This strengthened his domestic standing considerably, garnering widespread public support and solidifying his position of power. The International Summit, a direct consequence of his actions, successfully projected Burkina Faso's determination to assert its sovereignty on the world stage. This assertive stance resonated with many African nations, fostering a sense of solidarity and challenging the established power dynamics within international relations. However, a critical assessment must also acknowledge potential long-term consequences. The strained relationship with France carries significant economic and security risks. France remains a significant player in the region, and the fallout from the spy exposure could limit Burkina Faso's access to crucial resources and support. Furthermore, the heightened anti-French sentiment, while bolstering national unity in the short term, could potentially hinder future diplomatic efforts aimed at fostering constructive relationships with Western powers. The long-term success of Traoré's strategy hinges on Burkina Faso's ability to mitigate these risks and build a diversified network of international partnerships. The effectiveness of Traoré's approach is ultimately a matter of ongoing evaluation. While the short-term gains in terms of national unity and assertive sovereignty are significant, the long-term consequences require careful consideration. The strategy's success will depend on Burkina Faso's ability to navigate the complex geopolitical landscape, secure its economic future, and cultivate stable relationships with international partners beyond its immediate region. The coming years will be crucial in determining the lasting impact of Traoré's decisive actions. The spy scandal's ramifications for Burkina Faso extend across political, economic, and social spheres, presenting both opportunities and challenges. In the short term, Captain Traoré's decisive actions have strengthened his domestic political standing, bolstering his image as a strong leader defending national interests. However, the strained relations with France could lead to reduced economic cooperation and potentially hinder access to crucial development aid. Socially, while the incident has fostered a sense of national unity and pride, it has also exacerbated existing divisions within the population regarding the country's relationship with France and the West. Looking ahead, the long-term ramifications remain uncertain. Burkina Faso's ability to diversify its economic partnerships and reduce its reliance on France will be crucial in mitigating the potential economic fallout. The country's success in this endeavor will depend on its capacity to attract investment from other nations and develop its internal resources. Politically, the incident could lead to increased scrutiny of Burkina Faso's internal affairs by international actors and potentially further destabilize the region if neighboring countries perceive the events as a precedent. Socially, the increased nationalistic sentiment could either foster a stronger sense of unity and self-reliance, or it could fuel further internal conflicts based on differing viewpoints on the nation's future. The success of Burkina Faso in navigating this complex landscape will require careful diplomatic maneuvering, strategic economic planning, and efforts to build consensus amongst diverse social groups. The future trajectory will depend heavily on the government's ability to manage these complex and intertwined challenges effectively. The exposure of a French spy within Burkina Faso's military marks a pivotal moment, significantly altering the power dynamics both within the country and in its relationship with France and the broader international community. Within Burkina Faso, Captain Traoré's decisive actions have solidified his leadership, enhancing his image as a nationalistic figure defending the country's sovereignty. This event has also invigorated a strong sense of national unity, albeit one potentially fueled by anti-French sentiment. The previously subtle power struggle between the government and elements sympathetic to French influence has been brought sharply into the open, resulting in a clear shift in the balance of power within the country. The relationship between Burkina Faso and France has been irrevocably altered. The incident has severely strained diplomatic ties, marking a significant departure from the previously established power dynamic. France's influence, once pervasive, has been significantly challenged, prompting a reassessment of its role in the region. This shift has broader implications for France's standing in Africa, potentially influencing its relationship with other former colonies. The international community's response has been divided, reflecting differing geopolitical interests and perspectives on the sovereignty of African nations. The incident highlights a broader trend of African nations seeking to assert their independence and autonomy from former colonial powers. Burkina Faso's actions serve as a case study for other African nations considering similar paths, demonstrating both the potential benefits and risks involved in challenging established power structures. The long-term implications of this event remain to be seen, but it is clear that the power dynamics within Burkina Faso, its relationship with France, and the broader landscape of African-European relations have been irrevocably altered. The future will depend on how these shifting dynamics are managed both domestically and on the international stage. The events surrounding the exposure of the French spy in Burkina Faso's military offer a compelling case study demanding further investigation and analysis. The complexities of African politics, often obscured by simplified narratives, require a deeper understanding to fully grasp the implications of this incident. Further research into the historical context of Franco-Burkinabe relations, including the legacy of colonialism and its enduring influence, is crucial for a comprehensive understanding of the motivations and underlying dynamics at play. Scholars and analysts should delve into the intricacies of Burkina Faso's internal political landscape, exploring the various factions and their allegiances to gain a clearer picture of the domestic implications of this event. Detailed examination of the intelligence gathering process employed by the Burkinabe military, including the methods used to identify and track the operative, can provide valuable insights into counterintelligence strategies in the African context. This analysis should also consider the technological and human intelligence aspects, examining the effectiveness of different approaches and their implications for national security. Furthermore, a thorough investigation of the international responses, analyzing the stances taken by different countries and international organizations, is vital to understanding the geopolitical ramifications of the incident and the shifting alliances in the region. The long-term consequences of the spy scandal, including its impact on Burkina Faso's economic development, its relationship with France, and its regional stability, require careful monitoring and analysis. Open dialogue and academic discussion surrounding these events are crucial. Engaging in this exploration will not only enhance our comprehension of the specific case, but will also contribute to a more nuanced understanding of the ongoing struggle against neo-colonial influence and the pursuit of self-determination in Africa. The complexity of this situation demands a multifaceted and ongoing examination.